Yeah, so we're not even going to warm up this time.
That's right.
Yeah, we're right in there. We're right in there. Hello, welcome
Hi,
to
guys.
hello everyone. Welcome to the mess we're in with two of my favorite people and Helen Stanaland.
Are you counting yourself as two?
Yeah, I'm one of my favorite people. I think I'm very underrated. Let me turn it around. I think that's better. I don't know why. How are you? How's everyone doing? It's been a bit of a momentous week.
It
It
has.
has been. Yes.
Looks like self-ID is in the trash, which is really good.
Yes, I think that's good. Actually, I thought that statement of Liz Truss's was very good. I think, as Sarah Dighton pointed out, it was compassionate, it was kind, it was thoughtful. It was, it was well thought out and it was well phrased. There was just a little bit at the end about single-sex spaces being allowed. I do think we definitely need clarification on that.
Yes.
I would absolutely like to see what the absolutely spell out what the exemptions in the Equality Act for single-sex services are and should be and how they would work.
Yes. Oh, sorry. Someone's just asking why did Benji leave? It was never addressed. It was addressed. We did a load about it. We miss her terribly. Benji's just working on her own YouTube channel now. She just wanted to put all her thoughts into that, which I totally understand because you kind of agree to do these things, don't you? And then suddenly it's like, oh shit, now I got to do this thing.
Well, Benji's podcast is amazing.
Yeah. Benji, yeah. In fact, I haven't watched it enough, just simply because there's so much I have to do at the moment that it's just another thing on my list. Does she speak to detransitioners mostly, Artie?
Yes, she's I don't know if I can say yet, but she's doing a lot of work with detransitioners in Canada and around the world, and she has her detransitioner podcast called Post Gender Funk, which is extraordinary. Just I can't tell you enough how extraordinary it is. Yeah.
Yes. Well, I've often thought that some of the most incisive minds on all this are detransitioners. They're all. I used to love following them on Twitter. I still am under my sneaky account. But yeah, they used to be great. Anyway, back to the thing. Yeah, gender is one of those. The problem that people don't seem to recognize. I noticed that Twitter's Katie Minshall did this when she was. I'll just turn off WhatsApp as usual. Twitter's Katie Minshall, who I believe is the UK head of Twitter, was interviewed by Joan McAlpine and Joanna Cherry. And I noticed that when they asked her questions about misogyny and about sex-based rights, she'd always make sure she never said the word sex. She always said gender, because gender is the word that doesn't get you into trouble with anyone.
That's right.
Yeah, because it's like you can say gender, and all the people who think they have a gender will be delighted, and all the people who think they're talking about sex will also be delighted.
But it's worse with Twitter, though. Twitter, actually, somebody had a screenshot, I think for a brief period of time, they tried to take sex out of all of their protected groups to the point where they couldn't say sexual orientation. They just changed it to orientation, which is like, what? The direction you're facing?
Yeah. Yeah. Like, that's
very good.
That's for ship's captains. Which way you headed there?
That was short-lived. I think they put it back because there was outrage, and it might have been fake. I don't know, but it looked pretty real, the screenshot I saw. So yeah, they're really all in on the no sex, just gender.
It's crazy. Like Stonewall, I love the way that I can't remember who did this recently. I think it might have been one of the Pink News lot. But they said that the word homosexual, they said to someone, actually the word homosexual is considered offensive now. We don't use it. It's like, says who? They're just trying to remove the word. Even if the word sex comes in the middle of a bigger word, they want to try and get rid of it.
Yes, you could. I mean, this is a concerted effort to do this, to try and pretend that the word, say, homosexual has always referred to same gender attraction, not same-sex attraction. And you're like, well, I did not get that memo. Nobody's got that memo.
No.
It's something that you've just said.
Yeah, of all the words they're targeting, they're not targeting man, but they're targeting woman, and they're not targeting heterosexual, they're targeting homosexual, because these are straight males who want to be able to be counted as gay females, right?
Yeah. It's extraordinary. And you know, when they talk about mission creep and Douglas Murray's phrase that I heard the other day, they kind of St. George looking for smaller and smaller dragons to fight until he's fighting squirrels. But who would have thought that Stonewall, once they got marriage equality, who would have thought they would turn their attention to erasing homosexuality? That's a turn I never really expected Stonewall to take.
It is quite an astonishing advancement, isn't it? Yes, who would never, we would never have actually guessed this one. But it is 2020. Lots of things are odd. However, but if we go back to Liz Truss's statement, I do think that was it was clear, it was good, and it was just reasonably low key, wasn't it? I mean, the 3 new gender clinics. You know, I don't think anyone can complain about this. I think the more help people can get, the better. As
long as they're not getting any advice from lobby groups. We with any luck, and I have a feeling this is where they're going. Sorry to cut across you, Helen. No, with any luck, it'll be a science-based approach at the clinics. You know?
I do think that they are going to have to start doing this, aren't they? Because there has been quite a lot of fuss. There's been quite a lot of exposure of people leaving the Tavistock, and you know, quite a lot being said about it. I would also hope that. So I thought the statement was good. I think self-ID is definitely off the table, but like I said, you definitely need clarification on the single-sex protections, and then we're kind of almost there. Then we can just go back to feminists fighting for, you know, things that we have had to put on hold because all of this has got in the way. However, I did see Stonewall's tweet this morning, and it seems, you know, despite them talking about how dreadful and divisive the last 3 years have been with no clarification, they were absolutely all in there, still trying to make it as divisive as they possibly could by saying that they were going to fight it. So I'm thinking, what is it that they're after now? They want to sow division, they want conflict, because if they don't, then there's no money in it for them. I suspect they're not relevant anymore, and therefore they have to do this, which was, I thought, extraordinarily sort of disappointing to see. We don't need any more fighting and division. What's the point? The government have said this, and although yes, governments make decisions, people are still allowed to lobby and such, but you'd think at this point they'd be thinking, okay, well, we've lost this one. Let's move on to maybe trying to tackle violence against trans people, and you know, that's sort of.
Yeah, but the problem is there isn't a lot of violence against trans people. So
yeah,
well, that does lead us on to that other thing that we were talking about yesterday. So I saw Graham. I don't know if you were aware. You were ill yesterday, so we didn't really talk. I saw quite an astonishing accusation levied against us last night, and it was that we were laughing at trans people's murders. And somebody had shown a clip of this last week where Artie is making the point about the co-option of the oppression of sort of very specifically people in South American countries by white middle class male-born people in this country, and yet of course that's not good enough. The nuance can't be seen. It has to be, look, outraged. Look at them laughing at trans people being.
It's because they have no argument against the points. Like,
they don't even hear the point. The point is trans people aren't being murdered in the UK, and they turn around and say, "Look, you're making fun of all the murders of trans people in the UK." Yes. It's like, we literally just said there aren't very many. Almost none.
That's right. And it was very clear that it wasn't actually about missing the point. it was the point wasn't the point, if you see what I mean. The actual point was to say, look how dreadful these people are. Look how awful they are. Look how they're just awful. They're terrible. They're driving people to suicide. So this chap, I won't name his name. This chap was just constantly saying that I was a nurse and I used to cradle people as they died after sort of trying to kill themselves, and laid out their bodies, just incredibly emotive language, and then saying, I sincerely hope that you never feel like this because people are debating where you pee. And so to pin him down, I was like, are you actually saying that women are killing people by talking about where we pee? He sort of had to back off a tiny bit there, but then he would use phrases like, no, you're feeding into it, you're part of it, I had to point out in the end that actually, if you are concerned about people feeding in, people reading things, then maybe telling people that other people are laughing at them, falsely telling them that people are laughing at their murders on the internet, possibly isn't the right thing to do.
That's one of the things that kills me about supposed trans allies. They are constantly spreading the thing that women talking about their rights are resulting in trans death. They never look for these murderers of these non-existent murders. They're like OJ looking for the real murderer.
No. But this was a perfect example where he started off with trans people being murdered, and then he switched over to trans people committing suicide. Right. Which is a very different thing. And he tried to do it without anyone noticing. He's saying women are killing trans people, and then he switches over to women are making trans people feel so bad about themselves, they're going to go kill themselves, which is emotional blackmail, of course. Saying that women standing up for their rights is going to cause people to commit suicide. A, I don't think that's true at all. And B, the phenomenon of trans people having serious mental health problems is a serious issue that needs to be dealt with. And right now, all everyone's doing is saying, we'll deal with it by making women shut up instead of getting trans people the help they need.
We'll also deal with it by making trans people think that people like us want to kill them, that we find their deaths funny. We'll deal with it by feeding into every kind of cliche of oppression that doesn't actually exist.
Yes, I agree.
It's so reckless.
It is reckless. I found the whole line actually quite despicable. I don't normally I think, this person is a bit of an idiot. But actually, I felt that the purposefulness of his accusations, and then the rolling back, the pretense that he wasn't actually doing exactly what he was doing, I felt was quite despicable. Yeah. It was really, really wrong.
And did you say that they've taken a clip of that moment and they've created a video of it?
No. Oh. They just showed the video. And,
missing a trick there, guys.
and expected that people would just say, somebody's saying trans women, somebody's saying murder, people are laughing. Let's just say that this is what they were doing, and we can all pretend that this is what they were. I mean, obviously it isn't. But it's that sort of that attempted outrage. It's the need for outrage. But
I was deliberately being provocative exactly because of that, because we can't talk about all of these straight, white, middle-class males going on and on and on about how vulnerable they feel, and then acting that because they feel very fragile, that there's actually there's everyone's out to get them. I think that's something that I was being provocative about, because we need to address that. I'm really sick and tired of people saying that these fragile males can dominate everyone else because of their fragility, can tell women to shut up. Not because people are killing them, but because they're going to whine about how their feelings get hurt, There's a comedian in Canada named Scott Thompson from a show called The Kids in the Hall.
Oh, I know that show. Yeah, I used to.
He's a gay icon, this guy, Scott Thompson.
Oh, he's great. He was also in Larry Sanders, wasn't he?
I think so, yeah. But he, I think he said this privately at a party because he lives around the corner. He said something like, "What trans people need, what they need more than anything is thicker skin." Because there's this, it was a very provocative thing to say, but I think his point was stop constantly going on about how vulnerable you are.
I actually think it's more trans activists need to pretend that their skin isn't as thin as they are pretending.
That's exactly right.
I genuinely think that there are lots and lots of trans people who are just happily living their lives, and the trans activists are the ones sort of pretending that this is it's the Benjamin better whatever. Did you see that? The extraordinary intake of breath. It's just
have you
incredible.
seen it yet? Have you seen it yet,
the
Arnie?
most incredible thing.
What was
So
he reacting to?
So somebody's saying, some people are saying that people
are born
in the wrong bodies. We don't believe that. A part of the LGBT alliance. We don't believe that. And he's like, he genuinely makes the sound, and it's the sound of outrage.
Yeah. It's the most.
If he had a pearl necklace, he'd have been clutching at it.
Oh my God! They'd be scattered along the ground like like Batman's mother. It's like
In the alley.
but it was really performative. You could tell he was waiting for a chance like this. He was trying to move the needle amongst the viewing public that they too will go, what did she say? Whereas in fact, he actually said, I think it's bigotry. And I really hope Bev and Kate of the LGBT Alliance, I wish they'd start suing people because, it's outrageous. It's just outrageous. This is a view. The idea that you can be born in the wrong body is a niche view that the vast majority of people in the world do not believe in. They believe that women and men are a physical reality, and Benjamin Button's beliefs are just no one believes it. Like, he goes on Piers Morgan, completely humiliated. He gets into arguments with India Willoughby, who also thinks he's an idiot. Like it's just crazy. Why are these allies speaking for trans people? Let me just
don't forget, Benjamin Butterball was also transracial. Remember that?
Oh yeah.
Claimed to be a person of color to gain a position that was reserved for people of color or something like that. Like what? And then of course now doesn't anymore. So I guess he's a D-transracial.
Yeah. Maybe we should get him on. And maybe he should be our fourth member, although I don't think we'd be able to hear ourselves over all the gasping. Imagine he'd have a heart attack. He'd have a heart attack live on air. That'll shoot the numbers up. But I kind of briefly followed India Willoughby the other day because I saw Ryan, what's his name, of Pink News, saying, coming out with this thing, trans people are fragile and they must be protected. And India Willoughby said, actually, no, we have to be made of tougher stuff to go through what we've been through, and all these allies are talking for and over genuine trans people like India Willoughby and Debbie Hayton and all these people. They just ignore them. They just absolutely ignore all their points, but then I had to unfollow India when she called Kelly J a hate monger or something. I thought, no, I'm not having that.
There was another Benjamin that I saw this morning. Benjamin Cohen replied to Liz Truss saying, and I'm still amazed at this, can I ask what the point was of all the leaks to the Sunday Times about genital inspections?
Yes.
That wasn't a leak. I didn't read that in the Sunday Times.
That would have been, I think that would have been a headline. I think that would have been a headline. Genital inspections to begin.
Genital leakage. Where's the genital leakage?
Artie, please.
Has he mistaken the Sunday Times for Pink News?
Yeah. I know. They're living in an alternate reality. Also, I think the Benjamin Cohen, or was his name?
Yes, Benjamin Cohen.
Benjamin
Pink News chap.
Yes,
Benjamin Cohen is the
CEO. He's the CEO
of Pink News. Yes.
Yeah. Well, he was today saying, actually, it's quite a sensible statement. There's nothing in it that would there's nothing in it for transphobes to celebrate. And it's like, the end of gender ID is nothing. Can you tell us then why you've been trying to ruin lives for the last 5-6 years? Can you tell us why you wrote 200 pieces about why J.K. Rowling is a monster? These people, they are absolutely shameless. I think Pink News is I don't know. I hope that Julie Bindel sues the Jesus out of them. I think that's going along as we speak.
Yeah, it is quite an astonishing publication, if we can call it that. I mean, surely people read it now, like we used to read, the parody of the news. Remember that one when it first came out, the news parody one. But this is how people read Pink News now, isn't it? They just go there for a bit of a laugh. Like,
I don't think
nobody
anyone
takes
actually
it
reads it. Nobody's reading
seriously.
to read it. People are only reading it to criticize it at this point. It's just a bunch
Yes.
of gender criticals.
It's true. I mean, I stopped. I think
That's
like a lot of people
that's their
stopped
main income.
thinking to it.
I think
Yes.
so. I
It is.
genuinely do. Yeah.
I think so.
Yeah, but it's interesting. I just find this whole attitude of didn't want gender ID, didn't even want it. It's like, what? Why were you completely, shouting in people's faces, calling them bigots, disrupting their meetings, calling, why did all that happen if you didn't want it? That was what the latest kind of phase of feminism has been, just completely absorbed in fighting. Is this extremely dangerous and reckless idea?
Yes. What a waste of fucking time. What
I
a
know.
waste of fucking time. Now, of course, like I said, we've still got to fight the single-sex spaces because, unfortunately, Stonewall have pushed for that, and there's lots and lots of places who don't know what the law is, and then they think, oh well, we will just do this. And plus, I suspect that there's a lot of places who, because I want clarification on whether women have the right to single-sex spaces or whether companies have the right to defend them. Say if Virgin Active decides that they don't care about single-sex spaces, do women have the right to demand them? I'm not sure that we do. I think that it's down to Virgin Active and women to either boycott or just accept it. So, Stonewall and places like that are still doing this. They're still advising companies that they should be trans inclusive, and women are being left behind. I would like clarification on this, and I would like it to be made from the government.
Did you see James Kirkup's column in The Spectator? I think it was this morning.
Yes.
He was sort of doing a little bit of a political analysis, saying that they wanted to be more. Their internal polling seems to show that this could become an issue, like a culture wars issue, and they could use it. And they were, I think, planning to maybe be much more provocative and to sort of stoke this issue and to bring it to light. And then they decided against it. And maybe it seems like it's better to lob that football at the Liberals if they form a government or something. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I've often thought about that.
Let it be a Liberals problem. And I'd love to see the Liberals fighting Stonewall. That would be interesting, as opposed to the Tories.
I mean, it's so strange now to be looking to the Conservatives to hold the line for women. It's so crazy. But that's what they've done. And if that's true, what James Kirkup is saying, they've done it in a very responsible way. Because one thing we should be really clear about, the Conservatives, if they decided to, they could annihilate both the Lib Dems and Labour and the Greens, if they have to, on this issue. All they have to do is replay things that have actually been said. I don't think, for instance, that unless she apologizes, Lisa Nandy was ever electable. I don't think she's electable because she wasn't the one who. I think she was the one who they asked her what a woman was, and she just kind of went, these things will make people unelectable because they'll be able to go, look how silly these people were. Look how easily swayed they were. Look at their lack of spine. The only person they can't say that about is Keir Starmer, because he very wisely kept his mouth shut. But
exactly. He hasn't. And the best we can say about him is that he's kept his mouth shut. He hasn't come out for women, but he has kept his mouth shut. At some point, he will have to. He will have to say something. People will ask. He will have to say.
There's a piece about that in Unheard today, a very good piece that I'm putting in my daily roundup on my website later on, just about how his silence is beginning to look like complicity, and also I include the fascinating fact that I did know but I forgot about, that he, during Helen Steele's McLibel case, he provided pro bono help as a solicitor, so he should. I don't know. Unless he's
Oh,
not
that's
talking.
interesting.
Yeah. And the next time they spoke was when she was at a Labour hustings, asking, about women's sex-based rights. Asking very loudly.
Oh, very good.
Yeah. But anyway, what else has been happening?
Well, and the other thing I noted on Sunday was abortion seems to be being used as a cudgel suddenly. I think what I see is that they've tried. Trans people are being murdered because of the things that you're saying. Then it escalated to J.K. Rowling is actually literally a murderer and murderer, and maybe that's not necessarily picked up the traction that was hoped. And so Sunday,
I wonder why.
It was you were murdering women. Women will die. Sorry, they didn't say you were murdering women. Women will die. And the premise of this was a trans activist saying that women will vote for Trump, i.e. against abortion. And I think it's very clear to get the wording right here, in order to stop trans women from going to the toilet where they're allowed to go already. So not what is actually happening. I mean, I absolutely understand that there are some women who are considering voting for Trump because they are looking at it, they're thinking, what is the lesser of two evils here? The loss of the concept of women under the law, or possibly having to fight against abortion. No, I wouldn't vote for Trump, but I can understand that women have been forced, cajoled, attacked and pushed into the corner of having to consider what the alternatives are, the lesser of two evils. And to frame this as the fucking stupidity of women voting
rather than of the left
for abortion simply to stop trans women from going to the toilet was just pathetic. It's the framing of it, the absolute framing of women as really, really stupid.
What's also is interesting is they have no self-knowledge. They can't see that perhaps the problem is that the left are making themselves unelectable to 50% of the population.
Yes, there's lots of layers to this problem, but that I felt was the first glaring one. Now, obviously, the second one is the irony, but not really irony at all, of using the one issue that only women need. And I see Joe Morn use it too, abortion. And as Gloucester so beautifully put it, nice abortion rights you got there. It would be a shame if something happened to them.
Yes.
That absolute threat, of, well, if you don't do what we say, this will go. This is on the table. This will be taken away. So this new idea of, oh my God, gender critical women, they are the problem. They are bad for women. They're terrible for women because look, abortion. I could just see all the time people laughing. Someone was saying, "Oh, I'm laughing my ass off about this," and I'm thinking, really, that's your reaction? It's not that you actually care here. Not to say, "Oh, hang on, I really care that women are dying. Maybe I should actually dial back my demands a bit. If women are having to make this awful, dreadful choice, maybe I should consider that and dial it back a bit, not say, oh my God, women are dying, look at you, I'm laughing at you, I'm laughing at how stupid you are, how brainwashed you are." The whole thing is, again, I'm going to use the word despicable again, for like I've used quite a lot yesterday.
Well, we're in that area. We're in an area of despicable behavior. All of this is all like, it's not so much a political argument as a kind of a tribalistic display, where everything, when you're in a zero-sum game, the only score that's acceptable is, 10-0, 1-0. Sorry, I don't actually know how zero-sum games work, but that everything is, and I know, and I used to do this, and I'm kind of embarrassed of my at how I used to do this. I do think Twitter encourages it, but I do feel like I I did play that game of, oh, their side has lost, so that means our side is doing well, and their side is doing well, that means our side is losing, and our side, their side became. I think it was because I was so frightened by Trump getting into power. I found it so upsetting, and I went into a bit of a depression for a while. I think it was just upside down world. It was the beginning, I think, in a way, of our upside down world that we're now living in, and it really upset me. And I saw everyone who supported him or wasn't unequivocal in their condemnation of him as the enemy, you know. And I thought, why would they be standing up for this monster, you know?
But again, I think for just as an aside, actually, just your point about you used to do this. But I think it's important to acknowledge things that that you can actually learn about things. You can think, hang on, through arguing about this, I can look back at things in the way I argued in the past. And I think it's the same applies to me. I used to maybe do a much more emotive argument, say when I was on the Normal Page 3 campaign, because it was sort of over 10 years ago. And it was new, and I thought that maybe using the emotive, it's women, just sort of labouring that point, the argument from authority, say, was the best way of tackling it. Whereas actually now, I see it, and I think no, there are much better ways of doing it, which is to stay calm and just present the facts. So I do think people do still are able to move on and say, okay, I can see what's going on here. I'll maybe change the way I sort of deal with things. It's a good thing.
So I think we all have to be a lot more rigorous in our analysis of our opinions, I think, a little bit. I used to just rest on my leftist laurels. All the issues that the left is, we're all pretty unified on most of these issues, and they're all more or less right. There were a few mistakes. I always hated the treatment of Salman Rushdie, for example, on the left. I thought that was a real mistake and a lesson we should have all learned on the left from that. And I just thought, more or less, though, whatever the left agrees with, I probably do. It's probably fine. And now it's like, no, any issue, I have to really rigorously look at it, because I can see how easily the left is getting into these opinions that I don't think are reasonable at all.
And another problem there, Artie, is our sources of information are now so it's very hard to get. Like I heard, for instance, that Spotify is trying to censor Joe Rogan.
Yeah.
They're actually, some of their, guess what, I would imagine possibly their employees under 30, maybe that age group, very possibly, are saying that they want to hear his show before it goes out. It's so funny, the arrogance of these people. But these people are in power at the New York Times. As we know, there's ideological capture everywhere, from Stonewall to Amnesty to and so the information that we're getting is, like, for instance, I'll give you an example. I think is it the Southern Poverty Law Center? Is that what they're called?
Yeah. SPLC.
Yeah.
Poverty Palace, as they're also known. They're hypocrites, but yeah.
Yeah. Didn't they name a women's group as a hate group or something? Didn't they do that? I mean, like, if you can't trust these organizations, I used to quote them when I was in my, oh, fuck, the right are going to kill everybody phase. And then I saw them telling these absolute lies,
Yeah.
And it's where do we get our information?
With Majid Nawaz, too, they declared him a hate monger because he's a liberal Muslim. And all of these conservative Muslim advocacy groups were wearing the cloak of Islamophobia and saying that anybody that we disagree with is an Islamophobe. And the Southern Poverty Law Center makes a lot of money making lists of hate groups. That's basically what they do. They're a listicle factory. And they were convinced to put Majid Nawaz and Ayaan Hirsi Ali on a list of Islamophobes.
Yeah.
And it's like Majid Nawaz is a liberal, progressive, practicing Muslim. But conservatives, they find it very threatening that there can be a liberal, progressive Muslim in public. So they tarnish him with Islamophobia. And it's the same thing with transphobia being the cloak that these men's rights activists wear to attack their enemies who are feminists, and it works. The SPLC is like, if there's a market among the left for this, we'll put them on the list and we'll sell that market. And we'll get tons of donations.
I noticed they're trying to put the word phobia after the word fat now. Fat phobia. Yeah. I mean,
it's been like that. Well, that's been around for a little bit of time.
Has it? I only noticed it, but I want in on that action. If I stood up now, I'd knock the computer off the table.
Are you
You know?
gonna be like Homer with a dialing wand?
Yeah. What was he wearing? A muumuu. I'll have to wear a muumuu.
Yes.
Yeah. But where can what can I get in on this? I mean, that's something that you can easily just turn around if you're in any argument. You just say I'm fat phobic.
We have seen this. Well, we've seen this, haven't we? I mean,
Yeah.
I think it's unfortunately for let's say the other side. The whole transphobia thing has really lost its power, hasn't it?
Well, I wouldn't
honestly,
hope so. Yeah.
Just being called transphobic now, you're just like,
It's
like,
yeah.
I'm going to do that every time somebody calls me transphobic.
It should be like
What's the most ridiculous
move the
identity?
window back.
Yeah. I think we should invent a ridiculous phobia, an identity that we're going to accuse people of being phobic of. What's a good one?
I've tried.
You are a bit of a beard phobe, Graham, by the way.
Yeah, I tried this a few years ago. I tried to bring back. I tried to reintroduce gynophobia into the lexicon of sort of social activism, social justice activism. I did gynophobia, and occasionally you see people say, "Oh, you gynophobe." It worked quite well for a while until I did an account called Gynophobia Doggy, modelled after Racist Doggy, which sort of woofed at all of the terrible threats of death and violence that women got. But honestly, it just got banned immediately for retweeting hateful content.
Oh, really? That's hilarious. That's happened to me twice now on Facebook, that I retweet some dreadful thing that a trans activist has said to a woman, and I get banned for hate speech. I've gotten on the naughty step twice now for this. I don't think I'm going to be long for Facebook either. There's going to be all these news stories about how I've been banned from Facebook too, But I don't really use a lot. So I'm happy. It's confusing, Facebook.
Oh, it's a mess. I don't like it.
It's a shame that Twitter is in control of these being controlled by these psychopaths. That you just reminded me of something. Yeah, I don't think it's a good idea though, generally, to I mean, I feel like all the tactics that they use we should avoid, because planting phobia at the end of a thing is such a cheap, nasty way of winning an argument.
But you could argue that there is absolutely a need for the word gynophobia. We have misogynistic.
Yeah, doesn't that? I guess it's very hard to spell. I always have to check.
Yeah. Whereas gynophobia is a piece of piss.
Yeah, it's pretty good. Gynophobia, GYNOFPHOBIA, right? I nearly said F.
But I've always been wary of the phobia trope. Even homophobia is a word that I thought was a little bit problematic, to use the other side's lingo. But Jane Claire Jones had a great explanation of that. They didn't mean phobia as fear of so much as phobia as disgust of. And there was a lot of disgust underlying anti-gay legislation. So it's reasonable. But it was always a little bit like an exception, and we shouldn't start applying phobia to everything else. Islamophobia, I think, is a misnomer too, because you can be critical of text in a book and not be phobic of people. And transphobia is another one. You could be critical of gender ideology and not be phobic. I have no disgust towards trans people whatsoever. You can be gender nonconforming. I love it. In fact,
yes,
I'm
isn't that just the massive irony of the whole thing? I was so gender nonconforming growing up. I insisted at school that I go and do woodwork like it was girls sewing. This was back in the, very early 80s, late 70s. I insisted that I actually wanted to do woodwork because they sent all the girls sewing, and I actually did it so that they changed the whole school policy so that girls so that everyone did everything. Everyone did woodwork and sewing and cooking and metalwork. So we did it all. But, I always wore trousers. I'm completely gender non-conforming when I was growing up. And obviously, this is to be welcomed. This is something that is much, much better for society if everyone can be whoever they want to be and still have a sex.
Yeah,
that's it.
Yeah. I still think that they don't. A lot of the other side doesn't realize that that's the argument. I think they really do think that we want men to wear dinner suits or something, you know.
I do think
Never.
That, at
No
first,
coattails after Labor Day.
see, at first, I do think that it was a pretense to try and paint the other side as, gender essentialists. I think it was a pretense from some smart trans activists thinking, what can we use to paint these people as ridiculous? But I do think it's cottoned on. I mean, I do see people, right, this is what like TERFs want. They want women tied to the kitchen sink. And I think, I honestly think that they believe it, because they've been fed they've come along, maybe they've only been on Twitter for like a few weeks, and they've been fed these lines because they're young now, and they actually genuinely believe it.
Because meanwhile, I'm looking at like ex-Marines who decided they're trans women going around saying, I couldn't possibly change a flat tire. I'm a woman now, literally saying that,
Yes, I can't open a jar anymore.
Yeah.
Like, you served 2 tours of duty in Iraq. I'm pretty sure you can open that fucking jar,
What is it with the military as well? It's so crazy. It's so crazy. Charles Clymer, Amy Challoner,
is it?
Jennifer Pritzker, all of them.
One assumes it's not a coincidence, that it's presumably to do with maybe feelings of shame growing up, and possibly thinking I should go and do the most macho thing that I can do to maybe dampen down these feelings of being a woman.
I don't believe that. That's the most common theory, but I'm with Anne Lawrence, who says that's not true, because these people talk about, they're saying these are sort of naturally feminine people who are trying to take on the most masculine career possible to suppress their feminine urges. But the truth is, these people, what Anne Lawrence says is they talk about their military careers, and they loved firing guns, and they loved driving tanks, and these are just hyper aggressive masculine people. I think the problem is autogynephilia is actually very common. It's like probably 3 to 5% of men, more common than homosexuality. But the kinds of people who are going to act on it are going to be people who are hypersexual, which correlates to high testosterone and masculinity, and people who are very confident, like not necessarily confident, but people who are going to take risks.
More sense.
So I think it's more like the kinds of people who go into the military are hypermasculine and hypersexual. And so they're much more going to act out their sexual, they're going to take it on. And live the lifestyle instead of just keeping it in the bedroom, very quietly. Yeah.
It's interesting. Yes. That confidence thing is fascinating. I do think that's part of it. If you go to I Google it, I'm not sure how to find it, but Rachel McKinnon's papers. If you actually read her papers, which I haven't, I've just like looked at them because impossible to read them. But they're all about things like. They're all about things like forthrightly stating things, and they become the truth.
Yes.
And
the PhD was basically on how to lie.
How to lie,
it was
and how?
Wasn't it?
Yeah. Well, one of her papers, as I often say,
with great confidence, with great confidence,
and
riding high on testosterone. In other words, yeah.
But McKinnon is this kind of practice is being picked up across the board by it's just people very, very forcefully saying this thing and kind of expecting it to create a reality. And if self-ID had happened, that's where we'd be. I mean
yes, I'm so grateful that the government quashed that. I'm so grateful. They could see, I'm certain they could see how bad that this would have been for women, not just for simply because of the amount of people who would self-identify, but it's the government sort of sanctioning, go ahead, go and do it. I think it's very important that this happened. Statement.
Absolutely. And one thing that I think, the government, I know from people who've written to their MPs, the ones who've written back, who are kind of, they say, well, look, I do agree with you, but I can't say this and can't say that and stuff. They're all very nervous. They're all on very unsteady ground, and they don't know how to tackle this issue. And now that self-ID is in the bin, hopefully forever, although, God, if Labour get in, or Lib Dems, I can't believe I've said that like that. But if the thing they need to get a handle on next, right, is simply the word gender. They need, whenever anyone says the word gender, they need to say, I'm sorry, when you say gender, do you mean sex? and get them to be specific. As I started saying earlier, but I think I lost run of myself. Katie Minshall, I think her name is, from Twitter, was questioned by Joan McCann. Oh no, I did say it. And
yes, and it's changed each time. Yes,
she used that tactic. To even though Joan and Joanna were great, they didn't really pick up on it. I wish they picked up on it more. And I'd love if some kind of government office were to get Twitter back in and say, what are you going to do about the misogyny? What are you going to do about the what are you going to do about women who are standing up for their sex-based rights and are getting thrown off Twitter for using accurate language? What are you going to do about all that? And that will really put them in the hot seat,
I saw something quite amusing yesterday, just to change the subject, lighten it up a bit. I saw a bunch of people talking about how the J.K. Rowling tweet, the one where the likes keep on disappearing, wear whatever you want, love whoever you want, is actually, is this just posturing? Are we just watching disturbed people repeatedly clicking the like button on and off for days and weeks? People are saying, yeah, that's exactly what's going on. So, ladies, because it is generally ladies, it's basically you've, maybe you're a bit menopausal and have forgotten that you've clicked the like button a few times and clicked it off again.
Yeah.
So that's the current theory, that it's just us. Yeah, it's just us. Yeah, and I can see people saying, oh, yeah, that's what they're doing. That's what they're doing.
Just extraordinary kind of, all to avoid having the conversation that we're desperately trying to have. Again, let's say it again this week. If anyone would like to talk to us about this stuff, we're always open. Who doesn't agree with our point of view, would love to have you on. You won't get murdered, just by talking to us. You'll get a hearing. But I guarantee you they won't, because there are no arguments.
That's not true. I did get one chap. One chap said that he would come on.
Oh, yeah, but this chap is one of these people who I've already argued with this person and handed him his ass, and he just keeps coming back for more. Like, I'm not doing a repeat story. I knocked you out
the problem.
twice and blocked you.
I think I'm open. So honestly, I think if you're going to talk to people, and if people are going to want to see people talking, you want somebody who's going to talk genuinely. I don't really want a sort of Twitter argument where you've just got people calling you bigoted and just the same sort of thing that goes over and over and over again. I did suggest to him that I would be very happy to do a talk to him about whether he believed that women and girls should have no right to undress away from male-bodied people. But he said, "Oh, just bring everyone." So it seems to me that he didn't really just want to talk to a woman about it. I think basically he just wanted to talk to you, Graham.
Really?
Because I believe you've been blocked. Yes, I don't think he was particularly interested in me.
No, I think there's it's so funny how there's 4 or 5 obsessives on Twitter all day long, making terrible arguments and constantly getting shot down and just coming back for more. And they're people, all of these horrible arguments you hear, sometimes it's the same 4 or 5, frankly, kind of not all there people. There's literally there's 4 or 5. I almost block almost no one, but there's 4 or 5 people. You to block them, and suddenly everything, the world is.
I agree. I've got about 4 or 5 people who just follow me around doggedly, and they just say, "Oh, do you remember that time when you said this and I said this? Oh, good times." And "Oh, look, but you said this. Oh, remember when you said this?" And I'm like, God, it's not interesting. Nobody's interested. We've done that. We've been here. We've already had this chat. It's not interesting anymore. It's not interesting to anyone. And I was actually thinking the other day that they do clutter up my timeline a fair bit. I try not to block anyone, but actually I think it's possibly for other people are going to get bored because it gets sidetracked when you start to read down any sort of threads, which could lead to interesting conversations. You've just got lots of people cluttering it up with stupid accusations about bigotry and the usual stuff. So I think you're right, Artie. Maybe the point is to just block those sort of 5 or 6 people and just have a nicer online experience.
Yeah, they're not useful because they're not actually. You can't teach them anything, and the people who follow them, who are watching the conversation, they're not going to learn anything because these are very young they have followers who are like young teens, it seems, you know. Who, you know, so this is just like, this isn't helpful.
Yeah,
These
it's just a
aren't people who have
slapping game.
faith.
They just want to see it. Want to see a bit of shouting and, you know, people being
Yeah.
taken down, but with not with good arguments, but with
Yeah.
just stupid accusations, really.
Yeah.
Like
You know,
extraordinary extreme ones.
You know my theory about spell check and the internet. Did I ever tell you this?
No, what's this?
No.
Well, the problem with spell check is that it makes everyone look sane. You used to be able to tell the crazy people because the spelling would be all over the place. There'd be capital letters in the wrong places and the punctuation would be screwed. But now they've got Grammarly and they go, oh, that's a mistake. That's a mistake. And you read it, oh, this sounds like a perfectly reasonable person. No, they're sitting in a nappy. You know, they're not reasonable.
That's a very good point. Very good point.
Brilliant.
Right, guys, I'm afraid I'm on my lunch hour. I'm on the late shift this week, so I've got to
We did 50
log
minutes.
off.
Perfect.
Okay.
Yeah. All righty. Well, that was really good fun. If you hang around just for 1 sec, I'll end it for everybody else. Thank you very much for joining us, everyone. We'll see you again soon.
See you soon.
Bye. Bye.
Bye.